Back in the early days of internet debate and power scaling, it was sometimes impossible to provide evidence for things that didn't directly appear in the story, and thus a lot of rumors were born when people would just make stuff up to win an argument. And I think the pinnacle of this kind of power scaling information was Madara versus Nappa. For years, there was a rumor that there was an interview with Kishimoto in which he said Madara was the same strength as Nappa. As a kid on the internet, I totally remember believing this interview existed, or at least not having the proof or experience to confidently say why it wasn't true. This rumor evolved over time to the point where people were saying that in a combined interview, Kishimoto and Toriyama both agreed that if a crossover between Dragon Ball Z and Naruto was to take place, Madara would have the same power level as Beerus. Clearly, these interviews did not happen and are totally made up, but that doesn't make them necessarily untrue. Is Madara actually as strong as Nappa, or is there a massive difference in their strength? Or does the strongest Uchiha of the past actually rival the power of gods of destruction? Let's find out. If you like this stuff, make sure to like and subscribe to see more in the future, and for $2 you could join this channel to see this channel's videos early. That out of the way, let's jump right in. Due to only appearing in one arc throughout Dragon Ball and being in the era of power levels, Nappa's strength is far easier to calculate than it is for other one-off villains who appear later in the franchise. But even then, there are some arguments that his strength might actually be higher than we may think. To begin, we get explicitly told by databooks and guides that Nappa's power level is 4,000, making him more than twice as strong as Raditz, and giving him a power level more than 15 times higher than that of King Piccolo. However, arguably, Nappa's power level might actually be twice as high as this. You see, during the fight with Goku, while at first Nappa gets absolutely embarrassed by him, things start going a lot differently when he kind of locks in. After nearly flying into a fit of rage, Vegeta tells Nappa to calm down and that if he does, Goku won't be able to beat him. Nappa reveals that this will be what he can really do and starts performing infinitely better against Goku, going from being completely blitzed to swapping hands with him and reacting to him. They even clash beams evenly, Goku claiming that this fight could last forever. The reason Nappa loses is because Goku off-guards him with Kaioken times 2, a move that literally doubles all of his stats. Based off of what Goku and Vegeta say, this fight might have gone either way if Goku hadn't used Kaioken. This might mean that Nappa, when actually locking in, has a power level around 8,000, twice as much as his normal level as reported in databooks. Of course, he could hypothetically see a full moon and transform into a grade 8, which increases his power level by 10 times, giving him anywhere from a normal 40,000 to a locked-in 80,000 power level, which would make him stronger than every member of the Ginyu Force besides Captain Ginyu. So ultimately, how strong would this actually make him? As is the case for Dragon Ball, the continuity for Nappa would substantially change his scaling. Starting with the manga, as we know, in early Dragon Ball, power levels aren't linear and become linear around the time of the Saiyan Saga. Still, in this era, we have Roshi, Goku, and Piccolo all destroying the moon, with even 23rd Budokai Kamehamehas stated to be planet-busting in power. Given that Nappa's power is literally dozens of times higher than all of these power levels, especially with his potential 8,000, he would easily be in the planet level of attack potency and potentially large planet level. For the anime, due to characters in his era having more feats and generating far larger explosions, Nappa would be a good deal stronger. For example, Piccolo's moon-busting explosion has been calculated to be large planet level, which would make Nappa consistently large planet level and potentially dwarf star level as a great ape. For speed, the continuity doesn't matter quite as much, as there are plenty of things in original Dragon Ball that are referred to as beams of light that get reacted to or dodged, like for example King Piccolo's energy blast. Once again, multiplying off of power levels, Nappa would be tens of times faster than light and potentially hundreds of times FTL as a great ape. As a fighter though, Nappa really is unique in Dragon Ball because unlike other characters like Goku or Vegeta, Nappa has a really low battle IQ and kinda just relies on being stronger than his opponents in fights rather than actually being a good fighter. He consistently needs Vegeta to remind him to do things, as he was nearly killed by the Kienzan until Vegeta told him to dodge, and would have lost even harder against Goku if not told to focus up. With basic ki manipulation, he can fly, increase his physical stats, and launch all kinds of energy blasts, including them from his mouth, his hands, or just flicking his fingers to generate an explosion around himself or directly on an object or opponent. Given that he's stronger than 23rd Budokai level characters, these attacks should be able to split atoms apart. Will that be enough to beat Madara, or was the fake statement a bit true? Let's find out. When it comes to the scaling of even just normal alive Madara, I think it's pretty clear that he scales above pretty much every other character in the Narutoverse aside from a handful of high tiers. He's essentially an equal to the strongest Hokage Hashirama, soloed the current 5 Kage as a weaker Edo Tensei, and was pretty much the only guy who could take down the Nine Tails. And becoming the 10 Tails Jinchuriki, he pretty much surpasses everyone besides like 5 dudes. However, right off the bat, I don't think Sage of Six Paths Madara scales to Naruto, Sasuke, and Kaguya. Kaguya has way better feats and statements than anyone else who came before her, and directly is stated to have vastly more chakra than Madara. And while Madara fought Naruto and Sasuke, both of them got stronger and learned more about their abilities during their fight with Kaguya. With that out of the way, where does he actually scale? At the bare minimum, Madara is multi-continental level, scaling above some of the most powerful tailed beast bombs and attacks, which he should directly scale over, given how he can beat all of them. He himself also pulled off planet-level feats when he spread the God Tree over the planet, and is directly compared to Hagoromo when he created the moon, which is actually a planetary-level feat. Unfortunately, this is where I think Madara's AP caps. Even if you want to say weaker characters like Kurama or Planetary off of databook mistranslations, while Madara is massively stronger than Kurama, we don't quantifiably know how much stronger he is. There is a huge difference between planet level and large planet level, so even if Madara was hypothetically 50 times stronger than that, he wouldn't necessarily be within the large planetary tier. The difference is just that massive. As for speed, I think the Narutoverse hits light speed reasonably around the Pain arc, with things like Kirin and the Sage of Six Paths tier characters being light speed at the latest, with things like the Light Fang. While there's a massive gap between those things, again, quantifying it is mostly headcanon, as multipliers barely exist in Naruto aside from a handful of things. Still, I don't feel bad giving Madara FTL scaling. Unlike Nappa, Madara has a practical bible of hacks ability. He's got the Susanoo, the 6 abilities of the Rinnegan, a Mangekyo with an unknown ability. He's got regeneration, limbo clones, truth-seeking orbs, and jutsu of every single elemental nature. We don't need to go over what all of these do, because I'll just talk about the relevant ones in the next section, which we'll get to right now. So the main issue Madara is going to face here is that Nappa is stronger and more durable than anything he's ever come across before, with the fight being like if Might Guy was even stronger and didn't break his bones when kicking Madara. While yes, Guy had help avoiding some of Madara's attacks, the difference is that Nappa can actually just fly out of the ray instead of like airwalking. Thus, the only real win conditions in this scenario is if either Nappa is currently in his max state of stupidity or energy is equalized. I've mentioned before that Ki does not flow like a chakra network, so he wouldn't be easily manipulated and incapacitated by Madara's genjutsu. But if he did have a chakra network, Madara might not use this to his advantage though, as he rarely if ever uses genjutsu in character against comparable opponents, as again, he didn't use it against Guy even though he was nearly killed by him. If Nappa is off guard and for some reason decides not to attack Madara immediately, the Limbo clones might be able to get attacks in, but to say they would instantly one-shot him is a pretty huge stretch. Still though, in this scenario, it's far more likely Nappa just blows Madara and his Limbo clones away when he opens up the fight by flicking 2 fingers in the air. It's also important to keep in mind that even basic ki attacks from Nappa can reach into that bare minimum moon-busting level, while the same really can't be said for Madara, who only gets beyond that tier when using one of his incredibly powerful jutsu that might not scale to his normal physical AP. But speaking of moons, now the moon plays an interesting role here because both of them get their strongest abilities from it. Madara gets the Infinite Tsukiyomi, and Nappa gets his Grade 8 form. While both have the AP to destroy the moon if they want to, they'd probably both want to take advantage of it. If this happens, Nappa is going to transform first, as looking at the moon and growing is much faster than the relatively long process of flying up and casting a jutsu that doesn't even go into effect immediately. Furthermore, once Nappa is transformed, he is blitzing and one-shotting Madara even worse than he was before, as the gap widens by another 10 times. So, was the fake interview statement wrong all along? Obviously, but I had a fun time talking about 2 specific characters in more detail than I usually do. As always, thank you so much to my members who got to see this video early, and if you disagree with my takes, let me know how I was wrong in the comments down below. See ya.